Antony and Cleopatra. Part 1.
After the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE, three powerful men took control of Rome. Mark Antony, a great soldier and a respected leader. Octavius Caesar, Julius Caesar's adopted son, and Marcus Lepidus, a Roman politician. Antony left Rome and went to govern the eastern part of the empire, and while he was there, he fell in love with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. He went to live with her in her palace in Alexandria, where life was very pleasant. He adored Cleopatra and wanted to spend all his time with her. He forgot about his duty to Rome and made no plans to go back there. One morning, a messenger arrived at the palace. He brought news from Caesar, but Antony didn't want to hear it.
I'm not interested in what's happening in Rome,
he told Cleopatra.
My only interest is you, my beautiful queen.
But it might be important, Cleopatra said. It could be a message from your wife. Perhaps she's angry with you about something. Listen to the messenger, Antony.
I don't want to think about Rome,
he replied.
Let's go out for a walk.
His soldiers were shocked by his behavior. They wanted him to return to Rome. A little later, another messenger arrived. This time, Antony decided to listen to him.
Your wife and brother raised an army and rebelled against Caesar,
the messenger said.
but they lost the battle.
Then a third messenger arrived with the news that Antony's wife was dead. Antony felt guilty. Rome needed him, and what was he doing? Enjoying himself with Cleopatra. He knew that he had to go back. The danger was not over yet. Letters from friends told him that Pompey, a rebel who lived on the island of Sicily, was preparing to start a war against Caesar. He wanted to take control of the seas. He called his good friend Enobarbus.
Tell the soldiers to get ready to leave,
he said.
We're going back to Rome. I'll go and tell Cleopatra.
When he told her, she was very angry. You have broken your promises to me, she said, like you broke the promises you made to your wife. Antony tried to explain to her why he had to go.
My wife is dead,
he said.
and now some other rebels are planning an attack on Rome. Caesar needs me there. I have to go back, Cleopatra.
If your wife is dead, why aren't you in mourning for her? She demanded angrily. Will you forget me as quickly when I die?
I'll never forget you, Cleopatra. I love you.
Antony replied.
I'll think about you every day when I'm in Rome. But please try and understand why I have to go back.
Cleopatra's anger suddenly changed to shame. I'm sorry, Antony. Forgive me. I'm only thinking about myself, she said and kissed him. Go. The gods will look after you. Fight the rebels and win. Caesar was waiting for a reply from Antony. He was angry with him.
Rome is in danger, Lepidus,
He said.
We need Antony. He's our best soldier. And what's he doing? Eating, drinking, and enjoying himself with Cleopatra in Alexandria. It's his duty to be here. Let's hope he comes soon, Caesar.
Lepidus replied.
While we're waiting for him, we must start preparing our army for the battle with Pompey.
In his house on the island of Sicily, Pompey was discussing the military situation with his friends Menecrates and Menas. He was very confident.
I'll win the battle,
he said.
The Roman people love me. I control the seas, and their best soldier, Mark Antony, is in Egypt with Cleopatra.
There was a knock on the door and a messenger came in. He told them that Antony was now in Rome. The news didn't worry the rebels.
Perhaps Caesar and Antony will start fighting each other.
Menas said and laughed.
They've never been good friends. And Caesar won't forget that Antony's brother and his wife rebelled against him.
Menecrates added.
We'll see. You might be right.
Pompey said. When Caesar, Antony and Lepidus met to decide what to do about Pompey, it was clear that there was a bad feeling between Caesar and Antony.
Before we talk about Pompey,
Maecenas, one of Caesar's friends, said,
you two must forget your quarrels and become friends. If we aren't united against Pompey, we won't defeat him. I have an idea.
Agrippa, Caesar's commander, said.
Why doesn't Antony marry Octavia, your sister, Caesar? Then you will be brothers and friends for life. What do you think, Caesar?
Antony asked.
I agree, if you do.
Caesar replied. He knew that Maecenas was right. So Antony married Octavia.
Part 2.
Cleopatra was feeling a little bored without Antony. Her maids tried to entertain her with games and music, but she couldn't forget him. One day, a messenger from Italy arrived. Finally, some news from Antony, Cleopatra cried. Come, tell me everything.
Madam.
The messenger hesitated. He didn't know how to begin to tell the Queen about Antony's marriage. When she saw his hesitation, Cleopatra suddenly felt afraid. Antony's dead!
No, madam. He's alive and well. He's friends with Caesar, too.
That's good news, Cleopatra replied happily. Here's some gold for you.
But
what?
he is married to Octavia, Caesar's sister, madam.
When she heard this, Cleopatra was furious. She hit the messenger several times, and he fell on the floor. Tell me it isn't true, she shouted. I'll give you all the gold you want, and land. Just tell me it isn't true.
He's married, madam.
Then Cleopatra took out a knife. You villain, she shouted. I'm going to kill you. The messenger was very afraid.
It isn't my fault, madam,
he said, and ran away quickly. An hour later she was calmer. She called her maid and told her to send the messenger back to Rome. She had a job for him to do there. I want to know exactly what Octavia looks like, she said. Tell him to hurry back here with a description of her. I want to know everything. Caesar, Antony and Lepidus went to meet Pompey at Misenum in the south of Italy. They wanted to offer him a truce.
You can have Sicily and Sardinia in return for protecting our ships from the attacks of pirates,
Caesar said.
And you must send wheat to Rome. Do you agree?
Pompey decided to accept their offer, and the truce was signed.
We must celebrate, gentlemen,
he said.
I invite all of you to dinner on my ship.
Enobarbus was getting ready to go when Menas came up to him.
We've met before, haven't we?
He said.
Yes, we have.
Enobarbus replied.
We've fought many times, at sea and on land.
I'm surprised to see Mark Antony here,
Menas said.
Isn't he married to the Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra?
No, he isn't. Antony is married to Octavia, Caesar's sister.
So, he and Caesar are friends now, are they?
For the moment.
Enobarbus replied.
I don't think their friendship will last long. Antony will soon go back to Cleopatra. Then there'll be trouble again between him and Caesar.
The messenger returned to Alexandria and went immediately to Cleopatra's palace. He was shaking as he entered the room where the queen was waiting for him. He remembered her anger.
"Did you see Octavia?"
Cleopatra asked.
Yes, madam.
He replied.
In Rome with Antony and her brother.
"Well, what's she like? Is she as tall as me?"
No, madam. She's short.
"What kind of voice has she got? High or low?"
Low, madam. But she doesn't speak much.
"What about her face? Is it long or round?"
It's round.
"Her hair?"
Brown.
Cleopatra was happier when she knew that Octavia wasn't as pretty or as fascinating as she was. She apologized to the messenger for hitting him.
"Here are some gold coins," she said. "You're a good man. You may go now."
After their marriage, Antony took Octavia to his house in Athens. While they were travelling there, Caesar and Lepidus broke the truce with Pompey and started a war against him. They won and Pompey was killed. Then Caesar put Lepidus in prison. Antony heard this from a messenger soon after he and Octavia arrived. The news made him very angry. He sent his wife back to Rome and told his men to prepare the ships for war.
We're going to fight Caesar,
he said. Then he returned to Egypt and Cleopatra. Caesar was angry with Antony for treating his sister so badly. He immediately set sail for Egypt with his army. Antony decided to fight Caesar at sea. Canidius, Antony's general, and Enobarbus didn't think it was a good idea.
Your ships aren't good enough.
and your men aren't good sailors.
They told him.
You must fight on land.
"I'll help you win the battle," Cleopatra said. "I have 60 good ships. They are much stronger than Caesar's."
A few days later, their ships set sail and the battle began. Everything was going well for Antony's men when suddenly Cleopatra's ships turned around and sailed away. Antony gave the order to follow them, and the victory was Caesar's. Antony's men were filled with shame, and a lot of them, including Canidius and Enobarbus, left him and joined Caesar's side. Antony was also ashamed.
Once I was a brave man.
He said to Cleopatra.
I fought and won difficult battles. Now I am a coward. What have you done to me?
Cleopatra started to cry.
"I'm so sorry, my lord. Forgive me,"
she said.
"When I ordered my ships to sail back to the port, I didn't expect you to follow me. Please forgive me."
Antony's love for her was greater than his shame, and he forgave her immediately.
Don't cry.
He said,
Kiss me. One kiss from you will make everything right again.
Later, Antony sent a messenger to Caesar. He asked him to allow him to stay in Egypt. Caesar refused his request.
But tell Cleopatra that I'll be generous with her if she sends Antony away or kills him,
he said. When Antony heard this, he challenged Caesar to another battle. This time they fought on land, and the victory was Antony's. He celebrated by taking Cleopatra and his soldiers on a triumphant march around Alexandria. Caesar was now determined to destroy Antony's army. He prepared his ships for a third battle. It was again at sea, and like the first, it was a disaster for Antony, who was watching it from a hill. During the battle, Cleopatra's sailors surrendered and joined Caesar's fleet. Antony's men had no chance of winning after that, so he ordered them to turn around and sail back to Alexandria. He was like a mad man.
Cleopatra has betrayed me,
he shouted.
She has plotted with Caesar against me. The witch! I'll kill her for this.
Cleopatra was frightened. She called her maid.
"You must help me, Charmian,"
she said.
"What can I do?"
"Go to the monument and lock yourself inside,"
the maid said.
There's only one way to win back his love. Send a messenger to say that you are dead.
Yes, yes, Cleopatra said. Go and tell Antony I have killed myself. Tell him that the last word I said was his name. Then come and tell me what he says.
But the plan went wrong. When Antony heard that Cleopatra was dead, he forgave her for betraying him. He wanted to die too so that he could be with her again. He asked his servant to kill him, but the servant killed himself instead. He couldn't ask anyone else, so he took his sword and fell on it. He was still alive when the guards took his body to the monument, where he died in Cleopatra's arms. Caesar arrived in Alexandria and went to see Cleopatra. He promised not to hurt her or her children if she surrendered to him. But Cleopatra didn't believe him and told him to go away.
Bring me my best clothes, Charmian, she said, and my crown. I'm going to meet Mark Antony.
A little later, a servant arrived at the monument with a basket of fruit. Cleopatra told the guard to let him in.
He's bringing me my freedom, she said.
Among the fruit in the basket there were several poisonous snakes. Cleopatra took one out and put it on her breast. She took another and held it to her arm. The poison from their bites killed her instantly. When Caesar heard about her death, he told the guards to bury her next to Antony.
No tomb on earth will be more famous than that of Antony and Cleopatra,
he said.